So it's my order. Ms. Swopes, if you'll call the roll.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem
Here.
and Mr. Merrick,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Mr. Elkins,
Here.
Mr. Self is absent. Mr. Rackler is absent. And Ms. Parker
Here.
and Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. If you will all please stand, will be led in the invocation by Mr. Robinson and Mr. Merrick, if you'll lead us in our pledge.
Pray with me. Father in heaven, we come to you again tonight to ask you to continue find the humble hand of our community, continue to bless the work of our community and all of the things that are happening here. Yes, we appreciate the cold weather as well as the warm weather that's about to come. We appreciate the moisture that we just received. We ask you to put a special blessing on our brothers in California as they go through their ordeal of fire. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of Mexico, the day symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Okay, next item is public comment. The public has the opportunity to provide comment on subjects regarding city business. During the public comment period, speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless the mayor and or council request for more information. This time limit is given in an effort to allow the public input, but also to move the agenda forward in a prompt yet efficient manner. All speakers must sign in at the beginning of the meeting. Topics are limited to 6 speakers per topic. We have our first public comment speaker is Mrs. Baca on the zone change.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Before I speak on the zoning, I want to point out that the letters going out to the citizens are not very informative. They are in legal jargon and not translated. This particular zoning that I'm speaking on had no address and it was just the legal description. So I'm here to speak on the NMU seeking zone change from the residential to agricultural. This to me is screaming so many issues with having various livestock animals running through the facility. A couple of them is water usage, waste removal, dead carcass removal, smell, flies, and noises. I believe that the citizens' needs and wants should come first. We shouldn't always be catering to the college. Some can say that this affects them just as much as the other citizens that live there, but I beg to differ. The person that said this has a house that was provided through the job that he has, and he can tuck and run anytime he wants if it gets too bad. This has to do with the citizens that have investments in homes that are located in this area that will have this facility, that will have these animals just running wherever they want in this property, 30 to 60 feet from their front door. So they will be the ones that will have to face the noise, the smells, the dead carcasses, and all this on a daily basis. I don't think I need to mention what it will do to our dining. This facility is going to be close to our restaurants. We all know our winds around here will sweep up any smell it wants and sweep it around this town. Me personally, I do not want to be at a restaurant eating and have these smells interrupt a dinner that I'm paying more than $20 a wop. I believe that we need to do what we need to show the citizens that they matter. And I would ask that the council deny this zone change.
Thank you, Ms. Baca. Our second speaker will be John Kern.
Pass, I thought that was an attendance sheet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then y'all signed in, but y'all are presenting as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Okay, with that, we'll move on. Meeting minutes from the previous meeting. So our last meeting, regular meeting was on January 7th. Those meeting minutes were in your packet for your review. Do we have any questions on the meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Merrick and a second by Ms. Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, presentation items. Our first item is the ethanol plant purchase and usage. Mr. Edward Zaidman. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I don't have a slide control, right?
No, just let her know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, say next slide and she'll move it forward for you.
Well, we're we're pleasure to be here first and foremost. Very nice to meet you all. So Navitas Global is a project company that's purchasing assets of the abandoned ethanol plant that's been sitting in Portales for quite some time. And it's going to be utilized extremely unique technology that was developed so about maybe 6 to 7 years ago and currently deployed in several places in the United States and throughout the world. Next slide, please. So the core of the technology that was developed in Wisconsin, for quite some time. My partner and I, we work in central Wisconsin, close with the University of Wisconsin, University of Minnesota, with a sole focus on combating the issues with overwhelming whey production and dairy whey waste that's coming out from cheese plants. And typically the amount of liquid that particularly required to be treated is usually overwhelming and does not have enough treatments, and typically either ended up being land applied, put to feeders in the feedlots out in the open. Sometimes it dried, but the cost is typically prohibitive and extremely expensive. And lastly, we looked into biofuels, where particular permeate, what we call, which is a liquid after valuable protein separation, is being called out of the facilities in liquid form, contains high pollutants. Typically, it's lactose phosphorus, and when it's being untreated, it creates enormous environmental issues that builds up over time. Typically affects smells, affects drastically release of CO2 and methane into atmosphere. It's not processed that rapidly. So our core business and our core technology capabilities of processing this liquids extremely fast. Our fermentation of lactose is the fastest in the world to date, is up to 20 hours. Typical fermentation. Can you switch to the next slide, please? Okay, so that's, I kind of cover that. So we've got a cheese plant that produces cheese, whey, which is protein, which is typically a valuable commodity for any dairy processing. They'd like to retain that, and what they ended up throwing out is lactose, basically. Lactose, salts, and phosphorus that cause, typically cause a level of pollution. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here, why is it so small? I'm so sorry. Can you? Okay, perfect. So we're so drastically different from typical grain plant. Because the speed of our fermentation, one, we're able to absorb all the negative materials again within 20 hours. Nothing being released to atmosphere. We are capable of producing large quantities of this product and producing commodities in the form of ethanol. In our case, it's called advanced ethanol, which is fairly rare commodity for United States. Sadly, right now, for United States to keep classification of advanced ethanol, we have to bring ethanol from Brazil. They're produced from cane, and we say, hey, this is advanced ethanol because it's produced out of something that we don't grow. However, we are capable of producing quite a bit of volume. And this facility in Portales is actually a rare gem for us because this would be our sweet spot of production. We're surrounded by, let's say, about 12 extremely large cheese plants and dairy plants, one of it being right across the street, which is, quite remarkable. We get feedstock, across the street. It's rare as well. So go back to grain. So typically grain fermentation takes about 3 days. So amount of energy that comes with it, and amount of emissions that comes with it, obviously is quite a bit. Typically they have to struggle, going through scrubbers and contains with all the VOC emissions, all the CO2s. In our case, is greatly reduced. We basically need about a third energy to produce same amount of ethanol than typical grain ethanol. Additionally, we are actually a water producer instead of water taker, first, so to speak. All the feedstocks that come into a facility, it's all wet, it's all liquid. But it typically contains about 16 to 18% solids. So we focus on those solids, we separate them. What's left is really water, is clean water. It goes through multiple processes within the facility, and we reuse all that water internally. So we use for boiler water makeup, we use for any cleanings inside the facility. In other words, facility becomes very close looking like a dairy plant. So it's we deploy all the high-end dairy standards for cleaning facility, all AAA, typically USDA materials, and at the end of the day, we left with significant amount of water. Probably, obviously, we go through additional calculations right now how we're gonna run this particular plant, but typically tens of thousands of gallons a day. That water could be returned to a city. That water could be, you can do anything with that water. I'll give you an example. One of our plants in upstate New York, luckily upstate New York has plenty of water. However, when time to time we go through drought, people actually come to our facility, take water, shoot it into their own wells. So again, the water is super clean. We make sure that it's it's potable water, and it could be used to go back to a cheese plant if they want to. A lot of times, neighboring dairy would come in, grab that water as a feeder water, as an example. So that's basically us. And lastly, extremely important, our animal feed as a byproduct. Typical byproduct of grain ethanol plant will be like a low-level proteins, which are fairly cheap, and even though they're greater volume, they're not really that valuable. In our case, we actually be able to produce extremely valuable probiotic protein, which been tested on many cows throughout Europe and US. And typically in the hot environments, specifically, it really helps lactating cattle to produce more milk, reduce dry input of feed, and increase somatic cells. So basically, the milk, it just becomes better, utilizing our protein specifically. We developed this very specific programs for feedlots. Typically, it's just 20 grams per day per head, significantly improves cattle life as a whole. And I think local farmers will benefit drastically from this particular feed, just because the typical environment of feeding how you grow animal here versus other water-rich states or grass, like Wisconsin or New York, for example, where they don't have benefits, just like like here. This feed particularly would be quite enormous. We obviously, go back to, getting this plant up and running. We're gonna create, at the very least 40 permanent jobs. And we're gonna create hundreds of jobs, going forward. My typical approach in development, focus on local force, anyone that I can bring, any contractors, anyone that I can, deploy locally, is what we'll look for. Right now, I think I'm looking into and interviewing several contractors who could start like a first level of development, which is just take the weeds out of the way and see what we're dealing with after. Next slide. Yeah. So we are besides the way we're kind of extremely unique as well, that we could deploy other materials basically. In two places of other installations, we be able to take like off-spec sodas, for example, or any materials that been expired, or any materials that requires extra processing. It's been unlawfully laying around, and people need to get rid of it. A lot of times it happens with hand sanitizers that expired. So we're fully classified to actually commingle those products and produce ethanol, utilizing all array of those, while using actually our water as basis. We could as well process some of the grains, for example, if we decided to, maybe 5 years down the line, that we also could produce some sorghum. It also will not impact our production in any way. We utilize the same water, basically, just having fermentation of grains on that water. Next slide. Yeah, this is a bit more complex, but the great thing is about New Mexico as well, that we've just passed the low carbon fuel standard in the state, which is obviously huge. And we focus on all internal ethanol that we will be producing, going solely to New Mexico. It's going to be distributed through a terminal in Albuquerque, and most likely just go back to all the gas stations. We're talking to Valero right now, and a couple other locations to sell potentially direct. So all of this product is going to get kept in New Mexico. Next slide. That's a future, actually. So we're been talking to a few extremely well-positioned players in the world, which is a new thing, is sustainable aviation fuels, and a new path to produce sustainable aviation fuels from ethanol. And they're always looking for this extremely unique products that are really low emissions and low carbon scoring. So we've been approached by very large players, and trying to see if we can partner up with them on such a development. So I think Portales will be absolutely amazing place to deploy such a project down the line, maybe 3-4 years from now, when this technology is more developed. And that's what we're looking to deploy. Quite a bit of R&D throughout at least 3 years, to basically go back to our future goal to produce literally fuel that comes from cattle. This is going to be definitely world-known project, and probably put Portales on the world map of one of the most unique projects of this sort. Next slide, please. So that's basically a picture, right? So we got between Texas border and New Mexico, got all these massive players that today combined generate close to $1 billion pounds of whey weekly. I mean, it's enormous. It's an ocean, basically. Typically it's a very gray area, unfortunately, for these dairy folks. They don't really want to talk about it, just because this type of product it is. But again, we're here to make this environmental impact in reverse and make commodity out of truly something that has practically no value at all. Next slide. Yep, so that's basically this is our partners that will be involved in the project on the selling side. We're actively talking to Southwest. They're interested to potentially use some of our low carbon ethanol in airports in New Mexico. So they're going to be blending Jet A with our ethanol down the line at their locations. We are highly professional, skilled team, coming from ethanol industry at least 16 years. I'm myself industrial engineer, and also hold an MBA. And typically I like to get a handle on the projects. I do project development myself, with the support of absolutely amazing team of financial professionals and highly skilled engineer professionals. As I said, we built to date 4 different locations in Europe and US. Our demonstrational scalable facilities in New York. We're building another one in New York. We built one in Iceland, where actually they were taking whey and just dumping it into ocean. Yeah, that was interesting. So they have octopuses, not really octopuses. They had like a 9 tentacles or whatever. At some point, they grew a few more over the period of time, and people start noticing and say, "Well, you got to stop doing that." So we went out there and built absolutely beautiful facility right within their plant. So through New York facility, we created a lot of partnerships with massive producers. The plan that we had in Wisconsin, we gave it away to universities to just conduct further research, and potentially advance some other technologies down the line. But that's their focus. Next slide. Thank you. Oh yeah, forget it. That's not. Nobody's gonna read that. This is our core team. Basically, my partner and CTO, we've been together since about 12 years, met in Central Wisconsin, and built excellent partnership in operational skill set. Joe Van Grohl, he's been in all the big boy plants. Schreiber was his last one. He was a head manager of Schreiber plant in Wisconsin, and I kind of grabbed him from there, and we develop our ethanol process, starting literally from a garage, going into our R&D plant, and then going to commercial operations and etc. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I hope I think I covered quite a bit. Maybe there was a question actually about the smell. I mean, I can address that as well. Our smell typically is like a bakery. So I think everyone would appreciate that because we don't deploy any enzymatic processes. Everything that we do inside the plant is all 100% natural. Our yeast that we deploy is actually held in USDA facility. They grow it for us exclusively. So everything is natural, 100%, non-GMO. None of the process is modified in any way. So when we ferment, the smell is literally a baker's smell. So just again, smell non-existing, water positive. We're produce commodities from basically waste byproducts, and create jobs. And that's what we are, and that's why we're here. And hopefully, we'll get this project up and running. Aggressive timeline.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe any questions? Anybody who wants to know more?
Sure.
Could you expand on the quality? You had a slide up there that said purified water.
Yes,
Like, is that drinking water or?
this water can be drinking water. Yeah, it could be
So it
drinking
meets
water.
the standards.
It'll be 100% drinking water. You can put it in a bottle. I mean, obviously, it's got to be a different facility who put it in a bottle, not us. But if one desires, in fact, we had in one of the projects, we had a Red Cross approach us and said, "Hey, we will bring containers that holds water, and we're just going to use these containers. We take the water to places where the droughts are the most severe, and we utilize this water, somewhere else. They were going to hold the water all over the place, going to Africa, going to Middle East somewhere."
And one other point, the 10,000 gallons a day waste, does that go to our wastewater plant?
No, so that's just my guesstimate on how much clean water we're going to generate a day. We're going to take obviously a lot more, and utilizing our processes. Our waste is going to be volumetric, but it will not be any solids. In other words, it's just going to be water. We use pretty much 99.8% of whatever comes to us. We use salts. That's partially going to be in the feed. We separate that when fermentation is done. We take all that solids on the bottom. We just take that out. So that's another issue with grain, because when you enzyme treat the grains, all that sludge you have to remove and do something with it. Typically it's useless, but that's why it would end up in a waste treatment plant. We are completely opposite. We utilize pretty much all solids that come in, and everything is just left as water. So volume wise, we'll have quite a bit of volume, but we can decide what we do with it. We definitely plan to increase the size of the wastewater pond that's there. We're going to make it, we will double up on it. So we can retain more liquid potentially, but again, it's just going to be a clean water. Absolutely.
You're talking about, you'll get to the point where you will grow your own grain and everything.
Oh, no, not at all.
You didn't say nothing.
No. Grain, when I said that we might take some of the sorghum that's grown in the area, but not ours. No, we wouldn't do it.
No growing here in Port
No. I wouldn't even know how to begin. Unfortunately, that's not my thing.
Sure.
Please, that's correct. Yes, chambers. Correct.
So I was trying to keep up with you doing some math and I think in your presentation, it says 10 million gallons of ethanol created per year.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's going to be 120 to 140 million gallons of water that you'll be treating
Yeah.
from DFA here. Is that correct? So
no. DFA is going to be probably a third. I think roughly a third.
okay, so you wouldn't take all of their water here.
We'll take all of it. Yeah, it's
Okay.
going to be a third what we need to
Oh,
produce.
what you're capable of producing.
Yeah, entire facility. Yeah, because another unique situation here, because they went through several commissioning. So
Mhm.
they built first one plant and then they added another plant. So basically, it's just two plants in one.
Right.
So we're just gonna start one. We're gonna run in one part. The other
Okay.
part is gonna be dormant. If we're successful, when we're successful doing what we're doing, we're gonna start. We're gonna plug in another part. So it's gonna be phased out over a period of probably 3-4 years.
Okay, so this might be a question for Mr. Mendoza. Do you know if the DFA is no longer sending water to our wastewater treatment plant at 400,000 gallons a day, is that going to jack up our reuse line in any way? Or are we just gonna have to tweak that, or will it help us?
I honestly think it would probably just have to tweak it just depending.
Okay.
I don't think it's so much the waste that comes off of it. When I worked at DFA, there was their waste and then there was the way and everything that came and got truckloaded out.
Mhm.
That's what you're taking, right?
Yes, correct.
Not the waste from the wastewater plant.
No. Yeah, the actual permeate. Yeah.
Okay.
You're not using any of the city water in your processing?
We're gonna be using some, probably at certain startups. I mean, we have no choice, just to start up the process, we're gonna have to. Like some of the boiler makeup, maybe we'll fill, the cooling tower once. Once we start up, then we don't have to, but at the first level. I mean, we're probably gonna use it for bathrooms and stuff like that, simple.
But nothing in the processing of
No,
extracting the water out of the way,
correct, no,
all of that is internal,
absolutely, 100%,
and then you have a byproduct of plant water.
correct.
Question. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The other question is, you were talking about bringing in other types of cosmetics, other things that you could process and make into ethanol. In that process, there's gotta be a waste that comes off of it, other than
None whatsoever.
there's none whatsoever.
Mm,
So you don't have anything that's going to a dump ground, and
No,
it's all being processed back into
100%,
cattle feed and
right.
ethanol.
Yeah, if we do have quite a large scale recycling operation in New York. But again, nothing is going into anywhere. Even if like we work with Anheuser-Busch and Molson Coors, so they'll hold 60 loads of beer that they couldn't get rid of. So basically, we take the beer, we distill the beer into ethanol. We take the can goes into sale for aluminum. Carton goes to paper mill, nothing left, zero. So same, I mean, we could deploy same process, but there's so much product out here that, I have zero worries that we need that at all. But this is something that,
Bless you.
this is something we do. Nothing goes into land, with us other than water.
One of the problems with DFA wastewater is that it have too much fat in it. And when they put it on the soil,
Interesting.
it takes up. So how are you gonna eliminate that?
Well, we don't touch that. We don't touch fat. I mean, what we take basically after all that separated. So we only focus on lactose. So typically in the milk process, they'll separate. They'll take the fat. They'll take the protein. They use all that within the process. I mean, I can imagine they throwing out fat. I mean, that's crazy. That's literally money. That's your cream. It could be anything, butter, ice cream. I mean, you name it. If they throwing that out, they should probably optimize the internal process.
Whey is understanding the whey process.
Yeah, it's so a lot of people think, whey, because generally it's called whey. But once what we take, so whey is still considered to be a commodity because it carries protein. So we take permeate, it's not a commodity at all. So a lot of people, again, over the years, it's been historically, because the volumes are so huge, you almost force feed the cattle with it. It's not a best solution, unfortunately. I mean, over the period of time, it's just not the best practice. I mean, you could, obviously. I mean, you don't have a choice. But kind of with us, it's there's a choice, obviously. Any other questions?
Okay, so
Please.
you had said that when you worked at DFA, the whey is currently taken out of the community.
It's not taken out. I don't know who took it when I was working there.
So, I mean,
They come in
it's-
and take tanker loads.
Okay, so if currently that, you were in our community, then you would utilize that.
Correct.
Therefore giving us back as far as the water and the
Correct.
jobs and, all the positives that you had mentioned, so.
Correct. It's not going outside the community, believe me, it's all going everywhere, around. It's all around us. It's not going far. Otherwise, it would be cost prohibitive. So we're trying to, we'll partner up, make them more money. Potentially, if they want to expand, they can, because we're here. We can always process more. So it kind of goes economically. It typically when we come in, it's a multiple, because every dairy could potentially grow because they have a way of getting rid of their top waste. Farms can grow because we provide certain materials that beneficial to their milk. So milk quality better milk quality goes back to the cheese plant, better quality of a product, of an end product. It's kind of like it's basically it's closed loop. That's how we kind of work, we're closing that loop with a cow. We're giving a cow and then we take it from them and it goes back to a cow anyway.
So basically utilizing something that we already have in our community.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm curious, where do you get 12 cheese plants in this area, around this area?
100-mile radius.
100-mile radius?
Yes.
So Clovertrees and Lubbock, Roswell
Correct.
and Tucumcari.
Yep. It go up. Yep. Go up north a little bit.
So that's your cheese plants?
Yeah, we're gonna be working with three.
Three.
Just three. I mean, they're so big. I mean, the new La Prima Lubbock is just ginormous. I think I think they're bigger than Southwest actually. Southwest was historically the largest one, and I think Lubbock is just that scale a tiny bit. DFA actually had a plant that it was the largest ethanol plant that they operated. That was back in California. They own the technology. It was old technology, kind of obsolete, but they did operate quite a large ethanol plant there. And it was attached to Golden Cheese in Corona, and just, unfortunately, the dairy died down in the south and moved up the valley, so they had to shut down the cheese plant, shut down the ethanol plant. But they know us well. I mean, I know them well for many years.
Okay, if you don't have any other questions, thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely.
Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 2 is City of Portales Water Department report, Mr. Mendoza.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll just start with total amount of wells that we got down to we got 48 total wells. In service wells, we have 43. Out of those 48, 5 are out of service. 3 of those in Blackwater well field is being repaired. So we got well 6 that's waiting to be pulled, well 20 that's getting a cleaning, acid and brushing, and then 27 we're waiting for the motor to be checked. We have 13 total that are resting between the Blackwater well field and Sandhill, and 27 that's pumping out of the Blackwater well field. So out of the 37 in Blackwater, 7 of those are resting. That's about 419,000 gallons. In the Blackwater well field, that's 19% that's resting, and 30% if you count both well fields. So we're pumping around 3 million gallons a day, resting about 800 and almost 900,000 gallons. Since January 1st to today, we are at 1,368 gallons per minute pumping in. That's 1 million gallons, 1,969,920 gallons per day. And we're averaging about 26 feet at the tanks. Lime Street tank is completely empty. So Smithco is working with Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority. They're going to go in there and they're going to dig. I think he said it's about 19 foot deep vault. And then they're going to do the tie-in. They're going to come up on the top of that tank and tie into that for the U pipeline. So that's that'll stay empty until that's done. And it takes about 6 to 7 days to fill that tank. So once they're done, that's about the time that'll take. And the distribution system, when the weather allows us to, we'll get back to the fire hydrant repair placement program. And then right now we're just kind of being proactive and reactive as much as we can with the cold weather. Not so much on our side, but there's been a lot of customers that's called in that pipes busted, or we've had a couple freezes on the meters and stuff like that. So we're trying to take care of that as best we can. Stand for any questions.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
That tank that they're cleaning, that's a reserve for Portales. So where are we gonna get them served?
You're talking about the Lime Street?
Yeah,
So Lime Street, we typically use that in case of emergency, fire, or if we need it, need to cycle it through. So right now we're not at our peak demand, in our season, so we have enough, our well filled in Blackwater is enough to keep up with the demand that's used for the city of Portales. So right now, we're at a good standpoint, in the meantime. So typically around June, July is when we hit our peak demand. Typically when we use Lime Street.
Will they have it tied in and cleaned out by July?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know an ETA?
They didn't really say give us a time frame. They said within a couple of weeks, and that's probably given the worst case scenario.
Okay. And then 6 to 7 days to fill.
Yeah, 6 to 7 days to fill after that.
But you are utilizing Sandfield wells. Which is stored in the pipeline.
No, so nothing on Sand Hills. Sand Hills, that would just fill up Lime Street.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Okay, next we'll be moving on to our action items where our first item is the mayor is going to appoint Mr. Belden, Sean Belden, to the RCCDC board, recommended by the RCCDC to replace Bruce Nixon. Mr. Belden has been contacted and has accepted. And then so we will have him appointed. And then item 2 is the mayor is going to appoint Mr. Rackler to the Public Works Committee. On the agenda, it does show that he's appointing him as chair, but they will choose their chair at the committee, so he is just appointing him to the committee. And then our next item is community services. Item 1 is being stricted, the paperwork that we have for the zone change that Mrs. Baca spoke about is not complete yet. So as soon as we get that, we will bring that one back. And then our next item is item 2, request of approval for resolution PC 2024-2025-36, a variance at 1120 West Gum for maintaining a carport and fence that do not meet the Portales Municipal Code, submitted by Socorro Juarez Escobar, unanimously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Miss McLennan.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So this went in front of Planning and Zoning and was approved unanimously. We also do have, I see them here in the background, if you have any questions for them as well. This is the property in question. That's the highlighted version. Ms. Chris, you go to the next one. So this property already has the carport and fence up. They weren't aware they had to get a permit. It was halted in construction. And then, so it's, the carport's there, the fence partially done, but it doesn't meet all of our ordinances, so it's coming for you for final approval. So the carport is requesting a variance because of its size. It's bigger than we usually allow in the front yard. And it also doesn't meet the 10-foot setback. It's only 9 feet. And then the fence is 6 feet when it's only allowed to be 4 feet in the front yard setback area. Let's go to the next picture. So here's a picture so you can see them. There is the carport, and then you can see Ms. Chris is showing that's the fence there. So they have a fence on the other side, not just the chain link fence. Those are just poles. They haven't put the materials in yet. Ms. Chris, next page. So this was published in the paper. There was no utilities or property owners against it. We actually didn't receive anything back on this. As I said, it was 4-4 and 0 against at January 6th P&Z meeting. They did, as Ms. Baca can confirm, talk a lot about how nice the property looked. It's a very nice looking property. Is that I can stand for any questions, and then the property owners are also here for any questions you may have.
I got a question. On the carports, we got an ordinance how to go about carports.
Correct.
Are we going over the ordinance or what's happening there?
So the ordinance was redone 2-ish years ago. So the ordinance is good. It just requires that you have a certain size without a variance, and this just happens to be bigger than that size.
How about from the street?
Yes, so that is another one. So they're supposed to be 10 feet from the inside of the curb and they're only 9 feet. So that's another thing that this variance would be seeking.
Well, I was involved with that ordinance and people were really mad at that time because what the ordinance would say that you had to go so many feet from the middle of the street and then you could put your carport.
So the ordinance it actually replaced was 20 feet front yard setback. So it had to be 20 feet from the beginning of the property. And so this one actually moved it quite a bit up where it's about 5 feet from the inside of the property. So the one that was replaced a couple years ago is much more lenient.
Well, the problem that we were having at that time, they would say they were gonna put a carport and all of a sudden they covered it up like a room. So it was
So the new,
conditioned on the street.
yeah, so the new ordinance actually does tackle that as well. It does not allow them to be enclosed. It can only have one wall that's enclosed, and that's the wall that's against the house. So if they start to enclose it, turn it into a garage or something like that,
Exactly.
then it violates the permit and we can make them take it down.
Any other questions? Ms. Baca, do you have anything to add?
It's just that, as you see down that road, that's not a road, that's a valley. So that fence isn't impeding on any of the neighbors or anything.
It's just closing up the back of their house.
And I assume our garbage truck windows are over 6 feet, so that won't prohibit them either.
That would be,
Yeah, they have, I would think they have to be.
we did,
Great.
Public Utilities also received a letter and did protest.
Perfect. I move for approval.
So,
You have a motion by Mr. Elkins and a second by Ms. Parker. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item is item 3, a request for approval for resolution PC 2024-2025-37. A variance at 128 Oklahoma Drive for a proposed carport that does not meet the Portales Municipal Code, submitted by Scott Parker. And this one was unanimously approved at the planning commission as well. Ms. McLennan?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Yes, this is another carport coming before you, submitted by Scott Parker. And I want to make a bunch of jokes about Mr. Scott Parker because he's married to one of our councilmen, but I happen to like my job, so we'll continue forward. Ms. Chris, we go to the next one. So this has not been built yet. They're starting with us because this is going to be 50 feet over what we allow in the front. So we allow 500 square feet. There's just going to be, this is typo, there's just going to be 550 square feet. Everything else meets all the requirements. Ms. Chris, we go to the next one. Same thing, we sent this out, we didn't receive any protests back from neighbors or utilities. And then this was unanimously approved by planning and zoning from 4-0 on January 6th. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or I toss them to Ms. Parker or Scott, who's in the audience.
I already talked to Ms. Parker about it. We got it together.
Any other questions? Ms. Baca, you're good. What is the pleasure of the council?
I move, we approve. Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Lopez and a second by Mr. Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we have, Ms. Swopes, did you get the?
Yes, Parker abstain.
Yes, okay. And now we have our infrastructure department. Item 1, request for approval of grant award to the city of Portales for $687,600 to make improvements to city park facilities and its infrastructure. Ms. McVeigh.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, good evening. We did receive a grant and there is no match for this grant. It is to improve on various city parks here in Portales. So we are asking if the council would approve of the grant. And I'll stand for any questions.
What are our plans to expend those funds? What parks?
So one of them is to put some asphalt down at the softball complex.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just kind of some upkeep things at other city parks. And just some various items we have listed. And that everyone has talked about.
This is something that we definitely need, and thank you so much for pursuing this for grants. I make a motion that we approve. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I've got a question. So can this money be used, because we all know that we've got wastewater that's not being tied into our city parks? Can we use this for tying in those water lines and getting that up and running where we can actually water the parks?
I can look into that. I will have to look into that and get back with you. It depends on the legal language that we have.
I'd suggest we look into that, because if we can use those funds for that, I'm 100% for it, because that seems to have been, we've been short in the budget, we've been short in manpower to get that done. We can use some of these funds to make that happen. That's the first step in beautification, is to be able to get it where we use that reduced water.
I appreciate your suggestion and I can look into that, yes.
Any other questions?
Well, what if we can do it and we still have to approve the grant, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's getting money in to use on beautification of the parks, but if
But-
we can't use it for that particular thing, then we're gonna have to find where to get the money to do that
Exactly.
somewhere.
And usually are the grants earmarked for specific things, and they'll say in the grant what you can use them and what you can't use them for.
Yes, ma'am. That's why we have to look at the legal language that's in this one. And we may be able to, but I'm not positive. I just have to look through it again.
I'm curious, what was the definition to come up to the sum of $687,000? What was in the grant proposal?
So in the grant proposal, there were things like updating our playground equipment for safety, because those have been there for quite a while and we just want to make sure that they are up to date and they're safe for our kids to all play on. Things such as the parking lot and lighting for some of them. So things like that, and we have done some of these things to other parks. So we take from what we spent on those things and then we kind of plug it here and there. And you don't always get everything that you ask for, and then they give you the amount that they give.
So there's no
There's no true rhyme or reason. No, sir.
so if you want to do some plumbing at the park, you can do it.
There's no earmark.
It's not earmarked that way.
It's a talk show.
The language in it is, okay, so if we look at it,
Is it design, construct,
yes, ma'am.
design, construct, renovate, repair, furnish, and equip
Improvements to city
The
park
parks.
facilities and infrastructure.
and infrastructure?
Yes, ma'am.
So
So
can
it
we
would
narrow it down?
depend, so the legal language, it would depend on how the grantor takes infrastructure.
Mhm.
It depends on how they take improvements. So it would be up to them really. So I would ask them. And that would be with their legal team, what they would decide.
So the council merit recommendation could be submitted to them.
It is, yes, it is it can be submitted and it is a possibility. But I can't promise anything because I don't get to decide that.
One thing that, I know that we did with our last grant that we got our skate park and then we got some playground equipment. We placed it in between the, the two baseball fields.
Yes,
And sometimes those little boys hit home runs and there's no netting. So if we could just be really, just think about where the placement of is it for the next one. That way, we keep everyone safe.
yes, ma'am.
That was my only suggestion.
Purchasing that is.
Purchase and netting, yeah. Okay, with that, what is the pleasure of the council?
So
We have a
already-
motion.
I need for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Berger and a second by Mr. Elkins. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have our finance department, Ms. Rivera. Item 1 is request for approval of ratification of the bills and expenses and revenue reports for September 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. And this was unanimously approved by the Finance Committee on January 8th, 2025.
Yes, good evening.
January 16th, that should read. Because we have to move the date. Right?
Now, I believe it was still January eighth. Yes.
Was it? Okay.
Yes.
Public safety, we moved, okay, too many meetings.
So we had moved it in December.
Okay, perfect.
So yes, included in your agenda packet are all the AP summary and the check reports for those months of September through December. I will stand for any questions and recommend for your approval and ratification.
Do we have any questions?
I don't have any questions because I never received the agenda packet. So. And I was gonna call this morning and ask about it, but I was dealing with water problems all day. But I never got the packet sent to me.
It was posted on the city website and it was sent to your city email.
I didn't get it. City. What I got was the first 2 pages, but there wasn't anything else behind it. So.
So when I clicked on my city email attachment, or I emailed you this morning to send it to my work one. So when you clicked on it on the city email, it wasn't populating. But when you sent it to my work email, then I was able to review it then. So there was something, there was a little glitch with the attachment in the first time.
We'll have to get rid of these iPads and go back to paper, I guess.
Was that everybody or just the two of you?
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I didn't.
You did it?
Okay, if you want to take just a second to review, I will state that we did review this at Finance Committee. And it was recommended to move for approval for council review at that January 8th meeting.
Finance committee, you said finance committee approved this already.
Yes, we went in depth in discussion on it.
You on the finance committee?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion we approve the report.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Robinson and a second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is item 2, request for approval of resolution 2025-01. The budget adjustments for fiscal year 2024, 2025 for our third quarter adjustments. Ms. Rivera.
Okay, so the pending adjustments are also included in your agenda packet. There are quite a bit, so I'm just gonna note on the different funds their budget adjustments for. First is our general fund, then budget adjustments to our EMS fund, our E911 fund, our fire protection fund, municipal streets, our capital projects, the water enterprise, and finally, an adjustment to solid waste. So majority of these budget adjustments are for grants that we have received, and we need to record the revenues and expenditures. And then a few of them are adjusting within the budget, some line items. And these budget adjustments were also brought before the finance committee. And I'll stand for any questions.
And we also approved these budget adjustments, Oscar.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Since this is a resolution, I think we need to a roll call.
Oh, roll call. I'm sorry. Ms. Sposley, please call the roll.
Yes. And you're using your privilege of voting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Ms. Cordova
Yes.
and Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Elkins,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
and Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
That's all in favor. So it carries.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Make a comment here.
Mhm.
I like to say that it's a little different having the finance director come with this information.
Mhm.
It's kind of a pleasure to sit down and listen to her report in so many numbers, but I appreciate your effort and work.
Thank you.
We also commended her at our finance committee because in our workshop, because a lot of the dual controls and just the controls that we have put in place because of Lily's leadership is tremendous for even our audit that we're gonna do. So thank
I do
you.
have one complaint though.
Okay.
I drive a school bus and you have these meetings at 4 o'clock. And I'm just not getting back into town at 4. So sometimes I need permission to come to some early morning meeting.
We started moving those to 8 o'clock. So
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome. Just drop those kids off and head right over. Okay, now we're at the city manager reports. Request for approval to adopt amendments to ordinance 760, the city of Portales personnel policy originally adopted July 5th, 2022. Actions of the city attorney section and amendments to section 8, compensation and benefits. Mr. Moyer.
This is just the ordinance that we had presented 2 council meetings ago. That we did not have for entering a public hearing at the last meeting, so.
Okay, do we have any questions on the policy? Sorry, Mr. Moyer.
No, you're fine.
Do you need to enter the public hearing
Yes.
as it's on the agenda?
I make a motion that we enter the public hearing for amending ordinance number 760. Sorry.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Elkins. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are now in a public hearing. Do we have anybody here speaking for the policy? Anybody against? Okay, so now we just need to move back into a closed session.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing.
We have a motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Merrick. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we are in item C, action by council on amending ordinance 760 with proposed changes and additions. Do we have any discussion on it prior to the motion? Sorry, Mr. Robinson.
I guess I have a question, on the appointment qualifications. This is just for the appointment. This ordinance doesn't really talk about who he answers to once appointed. Would he then only answer to the
That will
mayor?
be- That will be part of our personnel policy and he will answer to the mayor and city council.
So that will be a separate ordinance. that we
Yes,
have to
that
do.
is, no, well, that goes into our personnel policy for his job description.
Okay.
It says, I mean, he's the legal advisor to the city council.
Is this model the same legal model than used by other cities?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? And that's just that one change, correct, Chris?
It's the change to the
Oh.
overtime paying
Just
compensation
taking that
for
one out.
non-exempt and then the addition of the city attorney.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? Okay, what is the pleasure of the council?
I make that motion. Please.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robinson and a second by Ms. Parker. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Moyer, while I have you up there, we had 2 other resolutions in the community service. Do we need roll call votes for those as well? It was for resolution,
Since you removed the first one,
those the second and third.
no, those resolutions do not.
Yeah, my understanding, based upon what we've recently done, the mayor has not called roll for the PC resolutions.
Okay, so we're good.
We
Okay,
should be
I
good.
just want to make sure that we are up to par.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we are at city council and staff comments.
Oh, we got one more.
One more, sorry. I'm still here.
Oh, item 2, recommendation from council on how to proceed regarding the sale or maintenance contract for the city of Portales water system. Most important.
Okay, so much has been said, obviously, about our the dealings with EPCOR and the potential of either selling our water system or having a maintenance contract. So my time in the military, you know, you have to move to if you're moving to a certain point, you need a directive on how to move there. So that's what I'm going for with this. So how I perceive it is I'm standing in a circle and I have 4 different paths around the circle and I can go to either one. All have different ways to go. So number 1, there's the private sale. With that, we can still do all the talks and everything that we do with EPCOR currently, and we can keep moving with that. Number 2, there is the option for a highest bidder RFP sale. The RFP process, though, limits how much we can actually talk to any contractor, vendor, potential bidder, which would, in my opinion, keep us from talking to EPCOR in order to allow fairness in the bidding process. RFP regulations would show them with an unfair advantage. So any bidder would have to get the same treatment that they have, which means they get to do a full assessment of our water system, all the things that EPCOR has asked of us. Any other bidder before the RFP process starts would have the same options. Number 3, I've heard it talked about as a management contract. That would also be an RFP and the same pieces apply. Number 4, we can continue on our current path, looking at things that I brought, infrastructure as a service, engineering firm that can help, etc. 1, 2, and 3, obviously, if we've been told it's probably a 1 to 2 year process to complete. 1, 2, and 3 would also probably require a consulting firm for us to help. So none of us are well versed in selling of a public utility. We're also not well versed in making an RFP for a maintenance contract. So hiring a consulting firm would probably be a very good option for us in those. So I don't truly need a decision. I'm not trying to pressure. I just know that with RFP regulations, the things that we have done, I just want to make sure that we are above board and legal on anything that we do going forward. And that's why I'm here tonight. And I'll stand for questions.
So what keeps us from just pursuing option one,
Nothing.
seeing what EPCOR has to say, since we've already entered into this much at this point? And then if it's not a viable option, then we proceed likewise, maybe direction in what area to go.
No, absolutely. We can keep moving. I just know that many things have been talked about. And there's no clear direction for me to go at this point. And I just want to make sure that everything is out there so that I know where I'm moving and I know what I can do and what I can't do.
And I understand where you're coming from. I just don't want to throw too many balls into the same glove and try to catch them all.
No, I understand.
So, I mean, until we get word from them that they're not interested, or that they've gone through quite a bit of analysis of our system.
Correct. And they've asked for more things,
Yes.
which is why I'm here tonight.
So I would like to see what they have to say before we go down a different rabbit hole.
Okay. And that's perfectly fine with me. I'm throwing it all out there just so everybody knows what it is and kind of, so I know where I stand and where I need to go.
So I have a question. So like you said, we have to be so careful that we can only go so far with them. And then if they say, okay, you need to make a decision whether you go with us or not, we can just outright go with them.
We can do a
And
private
we
sale
decide
without
whether
doing
we go with
anything.
an RFP or not, because like you said, if we do an RFP, then we can't talk with them anymore, because then you're gonna have to give the same
Correct.
opportunities to everybody else. We have gotten lots of great information from EPCOR that we did not have, that we were unaware of, that we now have.
Mhm.
So we have that, for
Yes.
our use. But like you said, how far can we go, or can we just say we want to go with them? Because you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes, ma'am.
I understand what
And-
you're saying. We have to be very careful. on
And
how
that's
far
why
we
I'm
go.
here tonight. We just have to be careful to not give. During the RFP process, it's called an unfair advantage. And I'm not saying there's another water system out there that would even come in and bid. That's not what I'm saying. But if somebody decides to come in and bid for our water system and we didn't go with them, maybe it's just, I don't know, whatever the choices are. If we did an RFP, then they could come back and sue based on an unfair advantage if we didn't give them all the same things that EPCOR already has. I'm not saying we have to do an RFP. We can absolutely do a private sale and we can keep moving straight forward with that. If that doesn't work, then we go to the other spot, go to the other things, and then we'll deal with that when it comes. I just want to make sure that I know which direction I'm going.
I agree with what Mr. Merrick is saying, that we just, continue with them at this point.
Without an attorney, I don't think we can go anywhere.
We have counsel.
Or you do have a counsel?
We do. We have one that was appointed for us from the New Mexico Municipal League.
I haven't met him.
No, they're in Santa Fe.
It's the one from the municipal league.
The Municipal League
Are they
assigned us.
communicating with the,
No, they are not.
Not on this.
Not on
issue.
this. There's no contract, there's no obligation of anything, so lawyers are not involved in this yet. But I would recommend if we do it for the private sale, and I've been looking for consultants to figure out and reaching out. I have not found any yet.
I have several if you need
Okay,
contacts.
I would love that because everybody I talk to doesn't know anybody that would be able to help.
I've got a couple in Santa Fe and one in Texas.
Okay,
Now,
you could send those to me, I would
Mhm.
greatly appreciate it, so I can get quotes.
we're still talking about selling the water to EPCOR or doing the things that we can do ourselves here in the city, like
We
we
can
done
do both.
before. Are
We
we
can do
having
both of those.
problems not having enough water or what?
What's that again? Sorry.
Yes. He asked, are we having problems not having enough water?
Yes.
Well, I thought the water was not a problem anymore since we were in regulations, not to water certain days and not that he was working pretty good.
Our water system works. The aquifer is still depleting though. We still have that.
Oh, well, we've had that for 100 years, I think,
Mhm.
and we're still here.
Correct.
I tend to agree with Mr. Merrick on this. I think right now we've really been courted by EPCOR. They have been very gracious in giving us advice and help. We again went to them. They did not reach out to us for as a sales pitch. For my recommendation, I would continue on just that path until we determine, hey, we don't want to do this. This isn't a viable option. This is not good for the city. Let's at least hear them out. Whether it be private sale or a maintenance contract. I think they're open to both, depending on the regulations that we have to follow with the finance committee. So
understood.
I would follow Mr. Merrick's advice on that one.
Okay.
Is this something we need to vote on, or is it just basically?
It's just directed.
It's a recommend. I just want a recommendation so that I know which way I should go with all of this.
Oscar, you have anything?
Just listening to all the rhetoric. Because I'm afraid to say anything, mainly because I don't know where we're going with this. Seem like we have made some, I don't know, in my thinking and listening to all of the conversation, we have made some deals with someone. And I just can't get to the bottom of that in my mind. I mean, in other words, I think we have made some promises to EPCOR. We haven't.
Not that not to do what I know of, no.
Okay.
There are no promises, no obligations, nothing.
No
Strictly a fact finding.
Out there.
Nope. Strictly a fact finding. Up until the point.
Everything that they have spent so far has been on their dime.
Correct.
The only other.
I'm afraid of the term private. I'm afraid of that term. And I might well admit it, I'm not in favor of privatizing our water system. And that's the way I feel, and I can be changed on that, but right now, I'm totally against terminology or even discussion about giving or selling the water to another to a company and closing out water department. That's what I hear, and I'm opposed to closing out water department.
Thankful. I am too.
I didn't hear what you said. I just said what?
Oh, well, what he's saying, I'm opposed to selling our water. And unless I really have.
Well, and I don't think that we're at that point yet because we don't have any information in front of us. I mean, it's hard to make a decision for anybody up here without having the proper information to see what the best path forward is for our community.
Right.
So until we get to that point, we have to take all of the information from EPCOR, from our water authority, from our water advisory committee, from just everything that we can. So what I would say is that I would like to do like the 1 and 4, because we can't stop what we're doing.
Correct.
Because EPCOR may come back and say, hey, we don't want to have to deal with this anymore. So, and if we stop what we're doing on our end, which we have not done.
We have not.
I just want to make sure that we're utilizing both of those options to do the best path forward.
No, I understand. That's the only reason I'm here today, is just to figure out what path I want to go down and make sure that everybody knows all the options and what comes with all those options. So I'm perfectly fine continuing on with the conversations with EPCOR that we've had so far. And that's what we'll do.
Okay, well, with that, we got item 2. So next item is city council and staff comments. Do we have any comments from the staff? Mr. Moyer?
Municipal Day just opened up on Friday. So just need names. It's the 28th,
29th.
28th of February.
28th.
And then there's a reception and night on the night prior. So I'll just need names for everybody that wants to go. So if you could just send them to me or let me know. And that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think that they're offering a newly elected official.
The virtual training.
Training.
That is optional. If I'll have to look at the date, and if anybody wants to take that, there's an optional and it's virtual. So
Sign me up.
That could be a refresher course too. It doesn't have to be newly elected.
correct. Anybody can take it. I will let you know the dates.
Anybody else from the staff? Mr. Elkins,
None for me.
Mr. Lopez,
What?
do you have any comments?
I got some comments on the weeds. What kind of contract do you give the people that go clean your weeds up there? Or we contract them? Do you tell them to clean under the trees? And what kind of job do you tell them? Oh, yeah.
So it depends on what they bid on. We have a company on contract for some of the larger jobs. And then we do bids for some of the smaller jobs. And it's just what they bid on and what we approve on.
Well, the job that they did up there in the north on the Gum and North Avenue L, they left all the shrubs around the tree. I mean, that's not clean to me. And if you could see, I don't know how much you're paying them, that's why, that's one of the reasons I don't, you know, they might not be getting too much money. Right?
Right. Sure.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, like, but basically, it's not on part of the weather permitted, stop us from having, community work on the MLK Day. Mr. Bruce at the university indicated that it was too cold and then they're gonna do it at a later date. When the weather, and I think Steve suggested that we did not paint because we don't think the paint will adhere to the house. So based on Mr. Chavez' recommendation, Mr. Bruce, council, MLK, community service project is a later date. And they will announce that. Also, I was out last night and I don't know why I was out, but anyway, it's awful cold and I was worrying about these homeless people and so I called Jo and asked her, was there something going on I thought we heard something at a car meeting that there was some kind of grant for homeless people and I was wondering if our city had an opportunity to look into that. And I asked Jo, was she checking? I need to ask her to give us some information on that.
Okay, Ms. McVeigh.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
It's my understanding, and I think it was put in a recent edition of our local newspaper, that there's a couple of things that are happening in town. The Legacy Church that's on 18th. They're offering at night, especially cold nights, they're offering cots and blankets. They're keeping the front of the building open. So people who are needing shelter, they can go in there and borrow a cot and a blanket. And then St. Helens Church are opening up. They have 3 showers that they've fixed up. And homeless people or anyone who's has out of plumbing, they can borrow a shower once a week. They just have to talk to the people at St. Helens.
That's-
They'll offer soap and they're offering towels, so there are actually some things that are happening.
How do the people, I understand there's some things, but how do they get in? I see this man on at the church. He got his whole house right there. How, maybe you don't want the help, so how do they, who reach out to them? That's my point.
That would be up to those individuals and once information gets to them, they would have to choose it and getting certain individuals
So
to
we don't
make
have
those,
any effort
we
ourselves
can't
to do.
force them to
Well, I
make
know
that
for a fact
choice.
because I go to the Legacy Church and they do have, there's a guy there named Tate Smith and he will actually go out and look for people that are out there
Okay.
that are not, that have shelter. It's called the Warming Center at the Legacy Church, and they have people from the church bring like hot soups and and they have donated water and they have food and they have cots and blankets. And you're talking probably of Kenny Shaw. And he said, in fact, some people asked about him last night that Kate said that he did go and find him and he offered him a sleeping bag and blankets, but he refused to go to the warming center.
Okay.
So they've offered him several times and they'll go and pick him up and look for him, because at that time of the night, kind of like what you're saying, Oscar, there's not a lot of people out. So you can pretty much find who's out there in need, but there's people that go there. But anytime it's cold, and even in the summer, if it's gonna be really, really hot, they have a cooling center where they can go in and get cooled. And so it's
You know, my liberal part and bleeding part and trying to save the world.
right.
And the whole idea is, I'm just worried that the people in the community, are we reaching out? Now, all this information coming up, and where do we go with it? So Joe, what did you find out?
So EPCOG does have a grant that they're working through and they've sent out an RFP. They're in that RFP process right now. And what they're working towards is a company that is going to offer homes for the homeless and homeless vets. And it is going to be mental health based. That's going to be a big part of it. But right now they are in the process because they do have their RFP out right now.
Thank you. I'm glad there's something going on. Thank your church, Joe.
And St. Helens, showers are on Mondays.
So Monday.
Mondays, I believe it's 8 to 11.
Oh, and I'm sorry, this does reach out to the Portales area as well. I know EPCOG is in Clovis, but it does reach out to the Portales area as well.
Well, I believe you can't lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink it. So that's okay, I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Update on the streetlights on First and Second that were out.
They're still,
Looking at.
so the whole square is done. I think they're still working on changing out ballasts and the other ones to LED.
Thank you. And that's all.
The other night when, speaking about, streetlights, I was coming down to Chicago and all of those lights were out too.
I
Whatever
want to
it
say,
was.
I'll reach out
Like that.
to Excel. I
Okay.
want to say those are Excel,
Okay,
but I'll reach out to Patrick.
thank you. Mr. Merrick.
I don't have really anything other than letting you know that, the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority did receive a letter from the Bureau of Reclamation, who pretty much governs the project. And that they have thrown their full support behind completing the project. Okay, the modifications and our plans for the water treatment plant. And the pumping stations that are gonna cost more. And they are basically supporting that. To finish that project, so it was a good day when we got that letter. And then we also received an additional $9.2 million for some earmarked projects that we've done. Still money coming in, still the project's still moving forward. And hopefully with that recommendation by the Bureau of Reclamation that we can get this pushed through and finished. So,
That was a good update.
That's good then.
Good day. Anything else? Okay. I just wanted to say we did have a public safety, we had our finance committee and our public safety. We did have, Ms. Brinskowski, and I always butcher her name, present, for emergency management. So we just want to say thank you to her for her update. If you weren't able to see it, I believe it is, listed on our website. And with that, that is all I have. So we are adjourned.